I am just absolutely made up with that. Pound for pound, the best thing I've done to this car. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This year I'm working my way around the F-Type, just doing a few little bits to tidy it up, looking at some modifications. And in today's video we're looking at the steering wheel. Now, when I was looking for this car, and if you haven't already, check out the video about how long it took me to find the car that I wanted. I had some stipulations about the steering wheel. It had to be flat bottomed and it had to be heated, and they're two quite hard things to find in the F-Type. Now, the wheel in this car is great and I love it, but it's starting to look a bit tired. It's done 30,000 miles. There's a couple of marks on it from where things like rings have just caught the leather a little bit. And if anything, I just want to give it a little bit of a refresh and tie it in a bit better with the interior of the car. Now, what I like about this is it's quite chunky. It's got the thicker grips than the standard wheel. Like I said, it's flat bottomed and heated, but it's just, I don't know, there's something about it. The leather's going shiny, the stitching's black, whereas everywhere else in the interior is white, and it could just do better. So what we're going to do in today's video, we're going to get the wheel off, we're going to get it off for a retrim, and then get it back on and see if it does refresh the interior every little bit as much as I'm hoping it will. So I need to take the steering wheel off, which involves removing the airbag and removing the securing nut or bolt behind here. I should imagine it'll be a Torx bolt. Now, I've got a couple of questions which are unknown in my mind at this point, such as, once that airbag's off, if I turn the ignition on or reconnect the battery, is it going to throw a fault code up on the dashboard? Now, I don't know. That's something I'm probably going to have to find out the hard way. And the other thing I need to pay consideration to is, once this wheel is off, I cannot move the car. Now, the wheel needs to go off for a retrim. I'm not using another one that I'm refurbishing. This exact wheel is getting refurbished. So the car's going to be immobile, so I need to have left it where it's happy to stay for a couple of weeks on the driveway. Shouldn't be an issue. But I just need to pay consideration to those two things. So let's get the wheel off, let's get it in the post to the retrimming company, and let's play the waiting game to get it back in its new form. So first things first, let's get the battery off. Anyone who follows the channel will have seen this 5 times over, so I'm not going to explain how to do this. Check out one of my other videos if you want to understand how that works. We're going to get the battery off, let the system drain down for 5 minutes, get all the power out so we don't run the risk of triggering the airbag. And then we'll come back to it and get that airbag off. So, battery's disconnected. I've put this cover back over the terminal so I don't run the risk of anything shorting and bringing power back to the system. We're going to give it 5 minutes. I'm going to allow everything to drain down so that I don't run the risk of that detonating when I unplug it. So, cup of tea, and then we'll come back.
A few moments later.
So, I've got the steering wheel at this angle, because just back here is a little hole with a spring clip that holds that airbag on. Let me see if I can show you that now. There's going to be some awards here for incredible videography, but see that bar that goes across there? We need to move that aside, and what will happen is that will release a retaining clip, and then the airbag should fall forwards. Then we can unplug the airbag with the system discharged, and then there'll be a nut or a bolt behind there, and we can take the wheel off. Now, I'm going to quickly consult the workshop manual. There's a thing called a clock spring that goes behind the steering wheel, and what that does is it's a big loop, like a big spring of cable, that does all of the buttons, like these, you know, the flappy paddles, power to the airbag, power to all of these. Now, what I don't want to happen is to take the wheel off and then that goes crazy. So I'm going to just consult the workshop manual, see what I need to do there, and then we'll whip all this out. So I'm glad I looked at this. So here you need a locking tool for the clock spring, and what it's saying is, once you've undone that center bolt there for the steering wheel, you need to put this clock spring locking tool in here. Now, I don't have one of those, so I'm going to have to try and fashion something of some sort. So let's see what we can come up with, but it has confirmed my suspicions that this thing will just spin itself unraveled if it gets there. So let's see what we can do there. Jaguar will try and sell you a special tool for this. I'm hoping a screwdriver will suffice, because the tool is it's about 80 or 90 quid, which I've got no interest in buying at all. Ah, there's one of them. Right, there's another one, I believe, on the other side. So let's rotate the wheel. There we go. Engine off. Now this clip is exposed and I want to leave it there because I don't want the airbag falling out. So we're just going to do the same with the clip on the top half. So this should then, once that clip has been released, there we go. Right, so that's the airbag, the whole module now. Now these things absolutely terrify me. There is no good reason for it to. It's all been down powered for some time. However, this does terrify me. I'm going to take a photo of these plugs before I take them off so I know which configuration they went in. It's always handy. And there we go. Now I need to take both of these off, which is going to be a case of flicking these little orange tabs out and then pulling the plugs out, releasing the wiring harness, which I'm going to make sure I've got plenty of photos of how that's configured so that I can put it back again. So wish me luck. So what we've got in here is this wiring loom, and we've also got a plug we're going to need to disconnect and feed back through. And then once all of this is off the car, we're going to need to strip the switch packs off, get the whole wheel broken down, or taken apart rather than broken down, but you know what I mean. So we can then send it off for retrimming. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this bolt out in its entirety. I'm going to mark the position of the steering wheel in relation to the steering column behind it, so I know it's gone back on in the correct position, and then we'll start getting that wheel off. This bolt in the centre here is a 21mm, done to 63 Newton meters. Now what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm just going to mark the position with a permanent marker, and then I'm going to put the bolt back in, and I'm going to give the steering wheel a real slam this way with the bolt in, because the last thing I want to do is rip it this way and smack myself in the face. So let me mark it. I'm going to put the bolt back in so that it's, you know, halfway in, let's say, and then we'll give it a whack around. So let's do that. So actually I've just braced to get out the car and it's coming off a lot easier than I thought. Sometimes you've really got to smack them to get them off, but actually this one, I believe, excellent. Now I've got my screwdriver back there still. Now just going to take a bit of extra care that this clock spring doesn't go doolally when I take this off. Now hopefully these plugs remaining in place, I don't know if you can see in there, a bit hard to see, can you see that? That's the clock spring moving, that thing there. So let me see if I can get a better shot of that for you. So this, now hopefully by leaving these in situ it won't unravel. I guess there's only one way to find out, so wish me luck. Now I'm just keeping that spring in position, feed the plugs through the steering wheel, and there we have it. One steering wheel. I'm just going to do my best to lock this where it is. I'll probably just use a bit of tape, I think, for now. But yeah, let's do that. I'm just going to put a bit of tape on there and then we'll start stripping down the steering wheel. Now, I need to lock the car, which involves putting the battery back on, and I've got a horrible feeling that in doing so we're going to get a warning light come on the dashboard for the airbag. So not the end of the world if it does. I've got my code reader that should be able to clear that down, but this all just feels like a dark art to me, and there's a niggling fear in my head that it might set off other things, which is completely irrational, but an irrational fear I have. So I'm going to pop this back on, hope nothing explodes, and see where we end up so I can lock the car and make it secure whilst the steering wheel's off in the post. Oh, there we go, thank goodness for that. Right, that's that on. Let's get the car locked. Let's make it secure. And then we can come back to it another time. So the wheel is stripped down in its entirety. All of the components are off of it. I've put them in a safe place. I will probably forget where they are. But yeah, all that's left is the heating element for the heated steering wheel, but can't really odds that. So let's get it packaged up, off in the post, and play the waiting game.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
The steering wheel is back from the upholsterers, the retrimming shop, whatever you want to call them, and they have done an outstanding job of retrimming this wheel. Just look at this. I am just absolutely made up with that. Pound for pound, the best thing I've done to this car. Let me talk you through what I've had done. So after the steering wheel went off, I sent him a message saying I wanted perforated Napa leather on the side grips here, and I wanted just plain Napa leather top and bottom. Now the wheel came back, it required a bit of reassembly after I had disassembled it to go off. And the keen-eyed amongst you will notice I've also changed out the paddle shifters for bronze ones. Now the reason I've done that is to tie into the bronze accessories that I've got on the outside of the car. And I think it does a really good job of that. Putting the wheel back on was quite simply just a reversal of how it came off. Now it was really handy that I'd put that pen mark showing exactly where it needed to line up. It ensures the steering wheel's gone on nice and straight. Now I am absolutely taken aback by how much retrimming that steering wheel has just refreshed the inside of this car. It's weird, it's almost like a new car. Before, all the leather had gone shiny, grease from your hands, it's inevitable. So we've got the bronze accents on the outside of the car. We've put the flappy paddles on the steering wheel to tie that in as well. And I've got a couple more bits up my sleeve, just a couple of subtle accents on the interior of this car to tie it to the outside. But you're going to have to stay tuned to find out about that in another video. As always guys, thank you for watching, thank you for sticking around. If you're not already, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Oh no. Which means I've got to put the battery back on to disengage the steering lock to get into this one up here. Oh man, what a kerfuffle. I'm going to have to clip it back in. Oh, how am I going to do this? This is a nightmare. So I need to put the battery back on to start the car, to take the steering lock off, to rotate the wheel. When starting the car, it's going to recharge all the systems, and I don't want to be messing around with the plug on the airbag. I'm going to have a think about this and I'll be back in a minute. Now this is the side of YouTube that you don't always see. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. This is all lovely and perfect. I can shift down gears using this paddle, but for some reason the upshifter doesn't work. Now I know I'm parked at the moment, but when driving that doesn't shift up a gear, so I'm going to whip that off, see if it's just me not plugging something in properly. If not, I'll have to test the pin outs. Worst case scenario is I can just slide the pin out of this paddle and swap the main body for my one that I know that was working that came off, but it doesn't always go to plan.